So with all that experience then of the whole basis of your life being in unconditional love, and yet having to live in a world where unconditional love isn't everywhere to be found, how did that start directing your life? I mean, did you feel that there was that unconditional love was something that it would be perhaps to be hoped that other people would love unconditionally as well? Did you in some way want to be sort of consciously helping other people to experience unconditional love by your own example, by your own relationships with people, or did it make you perhaps a little bit defensive in relationships? Did you feel a bit vulnerable, for example? Did it make you withdraw at all from society? How did you kind of cope with your developing perceptions?
It was as I was getting older. It was interesting because obviously as I was getting older, my friends were getting older, and although I sort of only really knew unconditional love, society obviously was, with everything else going on, society as it was back then, and my friends obviously getting older and experiencing more and more conditional love. It actually sort of, a lot of my friendships have sort of, how can I put it, fallen by the wayside. I have been told by a few people that I'm too good to be true, which I can understand that. I can totally understand it from possibly their perspective. Loving someone without condition and just allowing them to be. Because I know they have, when I get to know someone, I know that they may possibly have not had the same background or, the same, or share the same sort of, what am I trying to say, upbringing as I have. So I can, I always allow, I get my moments sometimes where I get frustrated and I offload and da. But I always, now I always explain myself why I do that. And all my close friends, I just say, I'm just offloading, I'm not reacting to you, I'm just offloading, blah, 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 blah. And that would come. And that would come. I just have to get it off my chest so I can move on and carry on with my day. But yeah, it's with unconditional love in relationships. When I look back on sort of relationships I've had in the past, let's just say, I'm going to use like romantic relationships here, because of that unconditional love, and for me, I always focused on the positives in people, what made them smile, what made them happy, what sort of, and it's like if somebody was really into, let's just say, well, whatever it was that person was into, actually, that made them light up, I would, it was like I would feed that, because sort of feed it, what you focus on, you feed, and it's sort of feeding that out of them, because just to allow them to sort of come into their own and allow them to be who they were. And also with my sort of innocent, it can be perceived as innocent. I've also been told that a lot of people feel that I'm quite vulnerable because of my innocent way of being. I trust people. For me, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Every single human being on the planet. You know, I sort of get to know someone that then if it doesn't feel, if I'm not resonating any longer, if the feeling isn't feeling right, then because I love myself unconditionally first and foremost, and you know, love begins with me, and I love me, and I always put myself first. Didn't necessarily do that in the beginning, but you know, I always used to put other people first, but you know, that's fine. I'm pleased that I did that because, you know, I wouldn't have known that I had to put me first had I not experienced that. Yeah.
So how did that begin to work out in terms of career, for example? How is your activity or work or whatever you might, hobbies or whatever you might call it? You know, how did that start working out?
Well, when I left school with absolutely no qualifications, I then went on to the lower sixth to retake all my O levels, and I was only there 3 months. And they actually, the careers officer pulled me to one side and said, "Katy, you're not doing very well. We suggest you've been talking. We suggest you leave and get a job." And I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. So, you know, I've always really lived in the now. And I look back and it's like, you know, the future for me is like, well, you know, I've got plans for the future, but I'm not attached to them. So I used to take each day as it came. So anyway, they suggested hairdressing, and I said, well, what do I have to do for that? And they said, well, sweep up, make coffee, get paid for it, and no homework. So I said, when do I start? Anyway, that was 28 years ago, and I'm still doing it. But where I work now, my boss, Kiri, he also loves unconditionally. And we've been working side by side now for 17 and a half years. And he, like me, is very silent and very quiet. And it's only the past few years, really, we've been discussing and talking about, we've been talking to each other about other things other than hairdressing or business. And but in the first few years that I used to work with Kiri, we share the same sense of humour, but at the same time, it's almost, we didn't need to speak to each other. We both just knew. And it was from that relationship that I became aware that there are other people out there like me. And we just, as I said, probably for about the first 8-9 years, we had silent communication, but with deep, deep, deep respect and unconditional love for each other. But we never verbalized it, we didn't have to. So that was lovely. And it, you know, it's great now that, you know, that I can actually speak about it, and he speaks about it as well, and we have some brilliant conversations with him. So in work, that's brilliant. Again, the same with my relationship that I'm in now, the unconditional love that we have for each other. Two people completely different, poles apart from each other. But because we love each other unconditionally, we just allow each other to be. You know, that's been a journey all by itself, but for me, it's been a fun journey. It's been a great outlet for me to, bless him, he won't like being called an outlet, but anyway. It's been a great outlet for me to actually, how can I put it, practice unconditional love, with, even in those intense moments, even in those moments when you just, you know, you have to, you know, I've so many times I've had to really go within and say, right, if he's just being who he is, and he's just reacting, and don't take it personally, it's got nothing to do with me, Unconditional love, what would your mum do? What would your dad do? What would your sister do? Okay, fine, yes, that's what they do. They just laugh at it. But just, you know, inwardly, I don't laugh at people. I don't laugh at people because I'm not here. I'm not, me as a human being, I am not here to offend anyone. And, you know, if I do, I'm always, you know, I always apologise afterwards if I have. You know, so that's, my inner sense of humour kicks in quite often. Yeah.
Lovely.